Not not much return on the investment for the fish. I don't know.
Well, they're very nice to watch in nursing homes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of the nursing homes that I go to for work have all sorts of animals. It's really birds. They have dog programs. They have all sorts of interesting stuff. Okay, we are in Parshat Emor. Parshat Emor begins with the description of the unique kedusha, the unique holiness of the Kohanim. So, Lou, this is a parsha that speaks directly to you. Um,
Yes.
the restrictions on mourning, on coming into contact with the dead, restrictions on um, who a male Kohen is allowed to marry. It begins with those. The bulk of the parsha is discusses transitions and then discusses the Moadim, the holidays. We usually read from Parshat Emor on every Yontif, on one of the days of Yontif, we'll read from Parshat Emor. Um,
Oh,
and
that's
in,
true. Yeah.
in at the very end, we have a very strange story that we discussed last year or 2 years ago, the Mikalel, the blasphemer. Very,
Mhm.
very curious, strange story. We're not going to go back there tonight, but still not sure that I know how to make sense of it. Um, but tonight I wanted to focus on actually somewhat appropriate to the discussion of pets, which is some unique halachot that revolve around animals that we find in the midst of the parsha. And it's sort of random, like why is it here? Other than that, we are bigadol and big picture and broad strokes talking about it's Torah Kohanim. It's Vayikra discusses laws, Leviticus, laws of the Kohanim, laws of the Beis Hamikdash. So it's not surprising that in Sefer Vayikra we would find this, but it doesn't. There's not an obvious connection to why it appears where it does in the Torah. So that's one of the things we might address a little bit tonight. But I wanted to share just a few interesting thoughts and insights. So to locate us, we're in chapter 22, Parakaf Bet, towards the end. That should say, it's not 26 to 44. I don't know why it says 44. It should say 34 or 33. Right, Aber Hashem o Moshe Lemor, Shor o Chesed o Eiz,
One,
Ki
two,
Yivaled,
26. At the beginning.
V'haya Shivat Yamim Tachat
Prove the
Imo,
wrong.
U'miyom Hashmini V'hala Yeratzeh LeKorban Ishela Hashem.
Mhm.
God spoke to Moshe saying, an ox or a lamb or a goat, if it is born, shall remain for 7 days with its mother. Miyom hashmini v'hala yeratzeh lekorban yishel Hashem. From the eighth day onward, it can
Imagine
Let's
be
get
actually
share
offered
screen.
as a sacrifice
that's
for
the word
God.
that you prepare the foreground.
Oh, Deborah. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Rena.
Rabbi, can you show the text?
Oh, I
Share
forgot
the
to share it. Sorry. Um, sorry about that. Share. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I even had it zoomed in for everyone.
Ah, good.
Okay. Okay, so for 7 days the animal is with its mother. From the eighth day onwards, it can be offered as a sacrifice. And an ox or a sheep, it and its child should not be slaughtered on the same day. When you offer a todah, a thanksgiving offering, it should be of your own volition. Eat it on that very day. Do not leave any over till the next day. Keep my commandments and guard them. I am God. Do not desecrate my holy name. I will be sanctified among the children of Israel. I am God who sanctifies you. Motzi etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elokim. Ani Hashem who took you out of Egypt to be for you a God. I am Hashem. Okay, so two interesting rules about the animals that can be brought for sacrifice. Number one is that the animal must be at least 8 days old. It cannot be sacrificed before it's 8 days old. And number two, we're not allowed to slaughter an animal. Most understand it to be specifically a mother and its child on the same day. Those are the two halachot I want to look at tonight.
Okay.
Any initial thoughts on any of this?
8 days implies some kind of connection to Brit Milah.
It certainly implies a connection to, well, there is a connection to Brit Milah, right? There's other instances of 8, right? We often speak, and again, Brit Milah ties into this, but right, 8 is.
It seems to me that would imply some kind of a elevated, of some, not holiness, but some kind of an elevated thought about animals.
Okay, so that's one question, is why do we have these restrictions on the animals? Go ahead, Cheryl.
Not slaughtering a kid the same day as its mother is similar to not cooking a kid in its mother's milk.
Yeah, for sure. And many of the commentators, as we'll see, explicitly make that connection. Okay, so we're going to start with the prohibition on sacrificing an animal before it's 8 days old. Before we do that, though, I just wanted to point out in source number 2 that immediately preceding this passage, we have another passage, right? Emor, God speaks to Moshe saying, Daber el Aharon ve'el banav ve'el kol bnei Yisrael ve'marta lehem ish mi beit Yisrael min hagar b'Yisrael asher yakriv korbano lechol nidrechem lechol nidvotechem asher yakrivu Hashem la'olah. Right? Any person among the Jewish people who wants to offer a sacrifice or fulfill a vow that they've made, tamim zachar babakar b'aksavim u'va'izim. It must be a unblemished male cattle or goat or sheep. Kol asher bo mum lo takrivu kilo liratzon yeh lachem. If it has any blemish, you cannot sacrifice it because it will not be liratzon. It won't be accepted. V'ish ki yakriv zevach shlamim laHashem lefalei neder linadava babakar batzon tamim yeh liratzon kol mum lo yebo. Similarly, if you're offering a shlamim, a peace offering, it has to be unblemished. Ervat averet o shavor o charutz o yabelet o garav o yalefet lo takrivu. I forget how each one of those phrases is translated. Verse 22, anything blind or injured or maimed or with a wen, boil scar or scurvy, such you shall not offer to Hashem. You shall not put any of them on the altar as offerings by fire to Hashem. V'shor v'aseh sarua v'kalut nedava ta'aseh oto l'neder lo yiratzeh. Okay, and then 24. Uma'uch v'chatut v'natuk v'charut lo takrivu l'Hashem uv'artechem lo ta'asu. You shall not offer to Hashem anything with its testes bruised or crushed or torn or cut. You shall have no such practices in your own land. Umiyad ben nechar lo takrivu et lechem elokechem mikol ele. You can't accept from a non-Jew. Okay. So the point is, and this is made.
Can you scroll a little bit down?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. So immediately preceding the age restrictions and the prohibition against Otovet Beno, the mother and the child, we have these physical, the description of some of the physical restrictions that can't be offered as sacrifices also.
So is this where we get the term glut kosher from?
It's connected. Technically, I think it comes from somewhere else where the Torah describes just in general, not only about sacrifice, about eating. We're not allowed to eat a treifa or a nevela. The term glatt kosher doesn't come from the Torah. Glatt is a Yiddish word.
Mhm.
Robert can
Oh.
probably tell us a lot more about the term glatt. But the concept comes from but that's the general prohibition against eating it, not specifically to sacrifices. Okay, so of David Tzvi Hoffman, this is Nachama Leibowitz's summary. I could not find the original. The connection between our verse 27, the verse about having to wait for 8 days, and the preceding ones now becomes clear. After legislating on the physical defects, the Torah rules on the age of the animal that disqualifies it from being an offering. So he says that in the general structure, because we're already talking about various physical limitations at what can and can't be offered. So therefore, we also discuss the age limitations as well. Okay. Rev. Naftali Hertz Weisel, also this is someone that Nachama Leibowitz quotes quite often. He makes the following observation. A young bullock is called an egel, a calf. A young sheep or goat, however, the terms "ez," "kesev," "seh," the Torah employs such teach us that 1 day old animal is already, right? The Torah doesn't use a special word to describe a baby goat or a baby lamb, a baby sheep, right? It uses the same term as it uses for a grown-up. This is an allusion to the fact that an animal is physically fit and complete in every respect the moment it is born. Not so a human being. An infant is completely dependent and helpless. It has to go through the process of growing up, acquiring knowledge, gathering experience. For it is endowed with the soul and free will, right? Okay, we know that a baby child certainly has a lot of growing up to do before we would call it a fully developed person. But he makes the observation that um, as far as these other animals, there is no such distinction made in the Torah, which I thought was
Except some of these animals have to learn a lot.
Yeah, they
before
do. I mean, right?
Yeah.
It is true that an animal.
knowledge and
I
experience.
I don't know all the details. Maybe Jeff from his experience at the zoo or some of the pet owners, but a lot of these animals, the babies do walk right away as soon as they're born. They get up on their feet and they walk. There is. I don't know at what point they have independence and ability to get their own food.
Even birds have
Yeah.
hard to learn. Yeah.
But these animals you're speaking of, they can get up and walk within
They
the
can get up and walk.
first
I
hour
mean,
of
I
life.
think they're
But
still
like,
dependent on
The
their
infant
mother.
mammals depend on the mother's milk.
Right.
But like
So
a puppy, a dog, which they're not talking about, it's born with its eyes closed. Doesn't open its eyes, in the beginning, for the first few days.
okay. So if
So-
you disagree with this, you're in good company because so does the Rambam.
Mhm.
So
But he was a doctor.
he was a doctor, so he would have. I don't know all of the biography of Charlie Hertz Weisel, but okay. So the Rambam begins by talking about the requirement for a baby boy. As Robert, I think we all probably had the immediate connection. But Robert was the first to say it, that for a human child, we wait 8 days before the Brit Milah. So the Rambam gives 3 reasons why we wait for 8 days, and we'll see if you agree with all these reasons or not. Number 1, if the operation, this is in the second line, if the operation were postponed till the boy had grown up, he would perhaps not submit to it. I think we can all agree to that. If you wait till the kid is old enough to choose for themselves, not every boy is going to want to go through it. Secondly, the young child has not much pain because the skin is tender and the imagination weak. For grown-up persons are in dread and fear of things which they imagine as coming sometimes before these actually occur. Okay, so again, there's all sorts of, I think, ongoing debates. How much does the baby boy feel at the bris? They always tell you it doesn't hurt. He's crying because it's cold. I don't know that I fully believe that, but it is true that the babies seem to have, much better easier recovery than a grown person would with the procedure. And number three, when a child is very young, the parents do not think much of him because the image of the child that leads the parents to love him has not yet taken a firm root in their minds. That image becomes stronger by the continual sight. It grows with the development of the child, and later on, the image begins again to decrease and to vanish. The parents, I don't even understand what
What
that
he's
is saying.
implying there possibly is attachment.
Right.
In rare instances, mothers of newborns do not have an attachment, and it's a psychological
Yeah, but I don't think he's
problem.
I think so. I mean, let's read the next sentence. I just don't
Maybe
understand what he
because
means when he says that it begins to vanish and decrease.
Mhm.
But the parent's love for a newborn child is not so great as when the child is 1 year old. And when 1 year old, it is less loved by them than when 6 years old. The
Mhm.
feeling of love of the father for the child would have led him to neglect the law if he were allowed to wait 2 or 3 years, while shortly after birth, the image is very weak in the mind of the parent, especially of the father who is responsible for the execution of this commandment. So the Rambam is saying that a parent, the longer a parent knows a child and interacts with the child and is with the child, the stronger the love is. So by definition, a newborn child that the parent has only known for a couple of days, the love is not as strong.
Mhm.
How long
And
did
That's hogwash.
I agree with you. That's crazy. You love the
He's not,
child in utero.
yeah,
he's
I
not talking about,
He's not talking.
he's not understanding.
No, he's not understanding the importance of things like immediate breastfeeding, which gives a very strong immune system to a child. I mean, there's so many, if you just want to talk about it that way,
yeah, yeah. So I
but
mean, he does recognize that this might not be
Hmm.
necessarily the same for the mother as it is for the father, right? He does recognize that.
and he comes from a Muslim culture,
Yeah,
which is a
and
different
one wonders before, not to take away from fathers' love and care for their children. What one wonders, before we were, the age before sonograms and ability to see the child, what the father's relationship was when the child was in utero. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's an interesting
additional issue?
observation, right? I
As
immediately,
a child gets older, the image begins to decrease and to vanish.
yeah, that part I don't understand at all. I
Yeah,
don't know what that means or where that's coming from.
Hmm.
The attachment to a newborn child who has a much higher likelihood of not living very
Yeah,
long
yeah,
would be possibly less. The unfortunate event of having infants who die for whatever reasons in the first few days after birth would have been much more common. By waiting a week plus a day, uh, it's kind of a marker point of if the child made it through the first week plus, then this is a child who is for a child fully functional, and that would be analog to checking whether an animal that's about to be offered as a korban is in fact whole, healthy, not injured, damaged. And so I would suggest that means that this is the equivalent of checking the korban
Mhm.
that's going to be
yeah.
brought, that it
Okay,
is a
so
healthy.
I don't know if you read ahead in the Rambam or not, but I'm not sure we have to read it anymore. Robert just beautifully summarized the point that the Rambam makes. Um, uh, the circumcision must take place on the eighth day because all living beings after birth within the first 7 days are very weak and exceedingly tender, as if they are still in the womb of their mother. Not until the eighth day can they be counted among those that enjoy the light of the world. Now, this is also
also, the vitamin K production in the body does not reach maturity until the 8th day. So
oh,
if a
really?
child were circumcised before then, it would bleed to death.
Huh.
Hmm.
This is why our
Interesting.
children who are born in the hospital have to get a shot of vitamin K before they can get into the car and go home.
Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting.
So
I was gonna say
Hashem,
I don't know if there's medical basis for what he's writing, but I guess there might be.
Oh, yeah.
That's very interesting.
Somebody
Um,
noticed. Wow.
that this is also the case with beasts may be inferred from the words of Scripture, 7 days shall it be under the dam, as
Hmm.
if it had no vitality before the end of that period. In the same manner, man is circumcised after the completion of 7 days. The period has been fixed and has not been left to everybody's judgment. Okay, so the Rambam, right? It was a long way to get there. I thought there would be some strong reactions to what he had to say about why we wait for 8 days. But for the bris, but he says basically the reason why we for an animal that we wait is because for before 8 days, the animal the child is not fully developed, is not fully viable, um, and 8 days is some marker of complete of full development. Obviously, the child continues to develop for many more years, as does I think the animal. Um, but that there's but that there's some benchmark of vitality of viability after 8 days is what he says.
blood clotting, the
Yeah,
ability to
blood
clot.
clotting would certainly do it. That would certainly be an important piece. Um, the Sefer Achinuch says similarly to the Rambam. Sefer Chinuch says, we'll do the second paragraph, Misharshe HaMitzvah, right? So the Sefer Chinuch always talks about he always gives us a rational explanation for every mitzvah. Misharshe HaMitzvah, the roots or the explanations of the mitzvah, Mashe Hikdamnu Be'inyan HaKorban Al Tzad Apshat, Ki V'koach HaPula Yitoreh Adam LaHachshir Masehu, right? So the general principle he has is that actions that a person undertakes um, inform the person's thoughts and mindset. V'lachein, itztava liot pulat hadvarim shebehen hechsher ma'aseh shleima b'chol kolcho. So therefore, the when something becomes permitted has to be when that thing has full vitality, has its full strength. Umishlimut hakorban sheyeh miben shmonat yamim v'hala ki kodem lachein eino ra'ui l'chol davar. Before 8 days, right? So therefore, we have this restriction with the sacrifice. It has to be 8 days because before 8 days, it's not fit. It's not fit for everything. Lo yachmod ish oto la'ochla lischora v'litzshua. And no one would want such a young, weak animal to eat it, to sell it, to give it as a gift. No one would want such a young animal. But once it's 8, again, I don't think I've eaten my share of meats. I'm not sure I've ever eaten an 8-day-old animal and noticed any difference. But but again, he says that there's some physical development benchmark after 8 days that is a greater sign of vitality for the animal.
I think it all relates.
Yes.
Is there
Rita.
any upper limit on the age of the animal? It can't be younger than 8 days, but it can't be older than, let's say, 2 weeks. I don't know. Is there any?
No, is there upper? I mean, I don't.
Has
As
to be
long as the
healthy.
animal is,
Yeah.
again, we're not talking about circumcising the animal. We're talking about offering for
Right.
sacrifice.
Hmm.
Um,
A little more
right, right.
permanent.
No, but an animal, so long as once it's very old and would show
Yeah.
signs of dying, we
Mhm.
Yeah.
define a treifa as an animal that's likely to die within a year, right? So then it might not be fit. But until that point, I mean, again, these animals certainly live multiple years.
Would it extend to animals, the prohibition on offering them as a sacrifice, if they have a broken leg,
Yeah,
torn ear?
yeah. So
there's
that was addressed previous in the first, right? Source number 2 on our sheet, right? That physical blemishes, physical defects
Yeah.
of all sorts.
So you have to get it young before anything happens to the animal. In other words,
Yeah.
just in the course of things on a
Okay.
farm.
Um, Arthur, did you want to say something else? I thought I saw you trying to get in there.
I think all the sacrifices are for whole animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the animal has a blemish, that's why the animals are excluded if they have blemishes, and so on and so forth. So I think it's all because the sacrifices should be whole animals, living.
Yeah, exactly.
We
Yes.
don't have that. You can throw a parts, and part of an animal as a sacrifice.
Oh, so right, right. You have to offer the whole animal. Right? Different sacrifices have different rules about which parts can be eaten, cannot be eaten.
Mhm.
Go to the Kohen, go to the owner. Like there's that's a little bit far afield from what we're looking at tonight. But
Hmm.
right, but you certainly have to offer, you have to sacrifice, slaughter the entire animal.
Yeah, and what the point I make is that the animal must be of value.
Right,
It can't be something which is of inferior quality because you're presenting something which should be precious.
correct,
Anything which interferes with that will go contrary to the thinking behind it.
correct, correct.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Fine.
the next source, number 7,
Which,
takes us in a little bit of a different direction eventually. It starts off very similar to what we've seen. Again, someone please tell me when I need to scroll down. This is the Vayikra Rabbah. Vaya Shivat Yamim Tachat Imo. Lama Shivat Yamim. Ela Kadesha Yibadek. So why does it require 7 days before it's fit to be offered as a sacrifice? So that we can inspect it. She'im negachto imo shimsabo mum hareze pasul lo yeh kasher lekorban. If it has some injury, it would be rendered unfit and can't be offered as a sacrifice. Ditnan taman yose dofen. Okay, gets into a little bit of technicalities. But if there's any blemish, so right, so we need 7 days to inspect it to make sure that it doesn't have any blemishes. For an older animal, right? We've spoken about this. Right, every animal requires a period of bidika, of inspection to make sure that there are no blemishes, no mums. We see that um, with slichos, right? Why do we say we have to say slichos for a minimum of 4 days prior to Rosh Hashanah? Does anyone remember the reason for that?
Sorry.
So the reason for that is because um, we're supposed to enter into Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur according to many sources, and this is for some people very problematic philosophically, theologically, but we're supposed to see ourselves as if we're willing to be a sacrifice in some way, right? Akedas Yitzchak.
yes,
Um, and so an animal, before it was brought for sacrifice, required 4 days of designation where you could check it and make sure that there is no mum, there is no blemish. So we require 4 days before a minimum of 4 days to say slicho, so that we can symbolically inspect ourselves and make sure that we're free of blemishes, and if we do have blemishes, to try to correct them.
It wouldn't apply to women.
If the
Um,
animal is found unfit because it has blemishes for an offering, what happens to it?
right. So once it's already been designated for an offering, so then you have to go through a pidyon process where you can't offer it as a sacrifice on the altar, but it's been sanctified, so it has to be killed and the money donated to the Beis Hamikdash or something like that. Okay, so that's the first position that the Medrash takes. But now we're up to Rabbi Yehoshua. Where's Rabbi Yehoshua? Okay, Rabbi Yehoshua of Sichin. B'Shem Rabbi Levi Omer, says the name of Rabbi Levi. Mashal lemelech shenichnas lemedina, b'gazar ve'amar, kol achsanin sheyesh kan, lo yeru panai ad sheru pnei amatrona tchila. King comes to visit one of his cities, one of his provinces, and he makes a decree, and he says, anyone that wants an audience with me, with the king, first has to meet my matrona, my maidservant, my, how does it translate it here?
Queen.
My queen.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't think that's a great translation. Well, okay, whatever. You have to meet the queen, you have to meet the maidservant, you can't just go straight to the king. And what's the point? What does that have to do with what we're talking about? Um, Kach amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, lo taviu lefanai korban, ad sheta'avor alav Shabbat.
Mm.
So too God said to the Jewish
Mm.
people, you cannot offer an animal as a sacrifice to me until it has experienced Shabbos. She'ein shivat yamim below Shabbat, ve'ein mila below Shabbat.
Mm.
Right? It can't go 7 days without having Shabbos, no matter what day the animal is born. Similarly, there is no Brit Mila. Right? One of the reasons we wait for 8 days is so that the child, the boy, will experience Shabbos.
Mhm.
It says from the 8th day onwards it will be acceptable. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak mishpat adam mishpat behema shavim. Rabbi Yitzchak says the law for humans and for animals is the same. Mishpat adam b'yom hashmini yimo b'sar lato. When it comes to humans, we have the rule that this circumcision can only take place after the 8th day. Mishpat behema miyom hashmini v'hala yeratzeh. When it comes to animals, the Torah tells us only from the 8th day on can it be offered as a sacrifice.
This
Klomar
just
imeveta.
triggered, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say this just triggered kind of a sweet memory that Arthur and I have about Joshua. We made a point of singing on Shabbos for sure, you know, when I was pregnant, and because once I could feel the baby moving, he really liked the music. It seemed moving around a lot more and
He still does like the
very
music.
animated by it. So when the baby was born, we began singing to him.
Uh-huh.
And so I would say that if people have been singing on Shabbos, they are giving their little one a very special experience that they would be able to build upon it.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, so the Akedas Yitzchak of Yitzchak Arama offers an explanation. Right, this seems very strange. Why should we care if the animal experiences Shabbos or not? The animal has no
Mhm.
consciousness of time whatsoever. Um, same question with the baby boy. A baby boy
Mm.
has no idea what Shabbos. Why should it matter? Why is it so important that they experience a Shabbos before
Mhm.
before being fit? So Rabbi Yitzchak Rama says as follows: the encounter with the he translated as the Purus or Shabbos in the contemplation of her wisdom and of what she represents deepens our respect and enhances our submission to her master. Meditating on the 7 day period of creation of the world will make us conscious of all that. It is for this reason that God said to the people of Israel, do not, my children, offer up an animal before it has lived through a Shabbos. And even if the Shabbos is not like the Shabbos of Genesis, the last day of the first week of its life, the 7 day period, remindful of a completed initial phase, will convey its message. There is also no circumcision without the passage of a Shabbos day, for no commandments, and much less the precept of circumcision, whose importance is equal to that of all the other commandments, can be carried out appropriately without the full awareness of the principle represented by Shabbos. The passage of Shabbos day and the realization of its message will affect the circumcision of the heart and the total submission and rational deference to God's commandments and their fulfillment. Okay, so that's a lot to put on a little baby boy
Mhm.
or a little animal, right? But maybe the point is for the parents also that they should meditate. That the focus on Shabbos, even in this sort of seemingly illogical manner, will help them to gain a greater appreciation of the significance of what they're about to do. Um, and I think he would say that there is some sort of metaphysical realization and significance for the child slash and or animal as well.
Mm.
Um, so I once had a thought on this. Maybe I spoke about this at some point in the shul. I don't remember, but I once had a thought, and this is if we're ever to have the merit to be together at a Shalom Zachar, this is my go-to Shalom Zachar Dvar Torah. So I share it with you also, and then we're just going to have to elbow out to see who gets to speak first at the Shalom Zachar, who gets to share the Dvar Torah first. But the idea that occurred to me is maybe part of the message to the parent and the child. It's a little bit harder to say that it's a message to the animal, but certainly to the person offering the sacrifice, is that as you go through life, there are going to be experiences that you won't appreciate, you won't know the significance of that experience in the moment. But nonetheless, it will be a formative experience in your life. And so we insist that the child live through one Shabbos before the bris in order to sort of impress that lesson, that Shabbos is going to be a major force, please God, in your life. And Shabbos is going to be something that will greatly enhance and affect the way that you live your life. And so you need to have that experience with Shabbos, even if it's in a very primal, way that there's no logical impact that it has at this moment. But I think that symbolically it creates that very strong message about why Shabbos is so important. And by extension, other things as well, right? That there are going to be things that we experience in life that are going to have a great impact on us. And we want to make sure that we take advantage of those experiences, and that we, even if we're busy, and even if there's a million reasons why we shouldn't go, no, take the time. There are things that are worthwhile, and that will have an impact. And so we need to send that message from a very early age, both to child and to parent.
It's the smells of Shabbos that are so special.
The smells of Shabbos, that's for sure.
Yes.
Well,
And the animals would be able to tell that too.
right, so the smells of
And
Shabbos,
when we
when you
rest
wait,
from work on Shabbos, and they would sense that also.
Okay, maybe. Right, I mean, it's, the animals also we're commanded to let the animals rest on Shabbos also. So Shabbos does have that connection with them as well. I'm not sure the exact same way, but anyway. So that's about the 8th day. I see that this took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take. So the second issue that we saw was the issue of Otovet Beno, the prohibition against slaughtering a mother and his child on the same day. There are those who say, and I think they're building off the Rambam, though it's not this exact passage in the Rambam. But one theory is that it sort of sends at least a symbolic message, if even not literal message, that while we're allowed to eat animals and enjoy their meats and enjoy other animal byproducts, we have to do so responsibly. We have to be conservationists. And so killing an entire family of animals in one day would be sort of like sending a message that it's okay to undo the species, to wipe out the species. That's one message that people take, is that if you kill out a mother and a child, so then you're sort of giving license to totally wipe out that type of animal. That's one explanation. Another explanation, which we have in the Rambam, again, we're going to go a little bit more quickly, beginning on the last line here, onto the next page. The pain of the animals under such circumstances is very great. There's no difference in this case between the pain of man and the pain of other living beings, since the love and tenderness of the mother for her young ones is not produced by reasoning but by imagination, and this faculty exists not only in man but in most living beings. It would be cruel. It would be a step of cruelty to have the mother witness the slaughter of her child, or to have the child witness the slaughter of the mother. That we can't be mean, right? We have to be sensitive to the emotions, even the emotions of animals. And he says, right, there are similar instances. Cheryl, you mentioned the prohibition against lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo, cooking meat and milk. He also points to the example of shiluach hakan, of if you want to take eggs from the nest, you have to first chase away the mother so the mother doesn't witness it. Okay, so the Rashbam says similarly that this is to teach us basic ethics, to teach us not to be cruel. The Ramban, it was a very, very lengthy Ramban. I couldn't find like the key takeaway passage. It was too much to put in here. The Ramban takes issue with Maimonides. Many people make it out to be like a real fundamental machlokas between the two of them. I'm not sure how radically different their approaches are. The Ramban says that the issue isn't about being cruel, because if you say it's about being cruel, then you're saying that we really are ultimately concerned about the feelings and the emotions of the animal. The Ramban says it's about teaching humans compassion. So that's basically what the Ramban says, that it's not about that we care per se about, right? I guess what the difference would be if you see an animal that's been, has a broken limb that it broke, not caused by man, not caused by humans, but like in nature, the animal is injured and is in a great deal of pain. So maybe the Ramban would say in that case, we still the Rambam, whatever. Maybe that would be a test case to tease out the difference. But that's how the Ramban is presented. The Ramban is presented as saying it's the real focus is on us humans to be sure that we are compassionate, whereas the Rambam is understood by many to be saying that we care independently about the emotions and suffering and well-being of the animal in its own right.
That's what compassion means, to feel emotions together with another being, another person, or another animal, and to have a sense that there is pain, there's something wrong. If you can fix it, do so. If you can't,
Don't make it worse.
it is a problem.
Okay.
An
Again,
animal
so
which is
that's why I said I'm not convinced it's such a big machlokas between them.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's such a huge distinction, but it's presented that way. So I wanted to, but anyway, what I thought was really interesting is there are two midrashim at the end that take this really full 360. Well, just again, I apologize. Our time we're already should be wrapping things up.
Same thing.
But we're at the Breshit
Right.
Rabbah. This is talking about when Yaakov is preparing to re-encounter Esav after 21, 22 years on the run. The last Esav had vowed to kill him. Yaakov now knows that a reunion is inevitable. And so the Medrash quotes, Vayomer im yavo Esav ala machane achad v'ikahu b'ota sha'a, right? So he splits his camp. He says if Esav comes to one and attacks, then at least half of the family can run away and escape. B'ota sha'a. At that very moment, this is what the Medrash envisions Yaakov saying. Amar Avinu Yaakov lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ribono shel olam. Yaakov makes the following argument to God. God, Katafta b'Toratecha, you wrote in the Torah, V'shor oseh otov et beno lo tishchatu b'yom echad. An ox or a lamb, you cannot kill its mother and the kid in the same day. Im yavo rasha zeh v'yabed et banai et imam ke'achat. If Esav, the wicked one, will come and destroy and kill mother and child at one time, Sefer Torah Sha'ata Tid Litain al Har Sinai Mi Krabo. Who's going to read the Torah that you're going to give the Jewish people at Har Sinai? There will be no Jewish people to get the Torah if you allow them to be destroyed now. please save me from Esau so he doesn't come and destroy mother and child. Okay. So, right, so the Medrash, in its very interesting way, is taking this compassion that we're supposed to have for animals and putting it back on God. God, you told us to be compassionate for the animals, to not show cruelty. So therefore, God, you can't show cruelty to us humans as well, right? We'll stop there. The same argument is put in Moshe's mouth in the beginning of the Medrash Rabbah on Eicha. Amar lefanav ribono shel olam katafta b'toratcha v'shor oseh oto v'beno lo tishchatu b'yom echad. Right. So the beginning of Eicha is describing, the various pleas that different figures in our history made to God to save the Jewish people, to save Jerusalem from destruction. So Moshe quotes our verse as well. Halok far hargu banim b'imoteim kama v'kama v'tashotek. And Moshe makes the argument already. So many mothers and children have been killed, and you, God, remain silent. Right? You've got to do just like you told us that we can't do this. We can't stand to see such cruelty. So God, you have to intervene and save the Jewish people as well. It's very evocative of the stories that we hear. Specifically, I'm thinking of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev, who's known as the great advocate, the great defender of the Jewish people, who makes all sorts of audacious claims to God. You have to save us. You have to be kind to us. But there's a whole tradition, certainly in Chassidut, of Rebbeim making such claims as well. So I thought that was a really interesting way that this idea really does come full circle. And just as God expects us to internalize it and appreciate it, so we can make the same claim to God as well.
There's also a connection with last week's parsha. It's like the second halacha that we've been studying is like a fence to prevent the killing of the mother goat or sheep and the little one, because that's exactly what the Canaanites did. That they would do that, and then they would boil the little one in the milk. I mean, that is the basic ritual.
Yeah, so I skipped over that
her
source.
Mother. Yeah.
I skipped over that source in the
and so that their
Rashbam,
approach to life, Canaanite has the connotation of people who are interested in business and nothing but business, and what can I get out of something, type of approach to life. It's one of the Sefirot, actually, and it's in a negative form. So this is a way to set up a fence that will not happen.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I hope this gives us what to think about.
Yeah.
Rabbi, none of us is Tahor, right?
Correct.
So could you explain?
That's a fairly safe assumption to make. Yes.
So please explain then the things that Kohanim do not do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we made a distinction, I think, last week between Kedusha and Tahara, between holiness and purity. Right? So the restrictions on a Kohen are based on the Kedusha that a Kohen is endowed with, the sanctity, the holiness. So that has nothing to do with one's status of pure or impure. It has to do with the innate sanctity that a Kohen has by virtue of being born a Kohen. Okay, we can discuss further offline, but it's already getting to be some people's bedtimes, myself included. So that being said, I'm not sure that I will be here next week. Matan has a baseball tournament in Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
I very much want to go to the tournament. I very much, at this point, looks like I won't be able to make it. I've got too much going on with my other job. But if I do make it, then I will be in the car driving home from Columbus next Tuesday night. But I will know later in the week what the case is, and it will be in the announcements one way or the other.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And in any case, I hope to see everyone in Shul on Shabbos. I hope everyone has a good rest of the week. And we'll talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for the share.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for
Eli
this
Wendell.
incredible set of references. Wow.
All right.